Third word, coping. And a word today is coping. And for me, you kind of got to start a little bit before the word to actually address it. Have you ever spent some time just kind of thinking about what it is that you can do, that others do around you, that kind of charges your batteries? Imagine a cell phone or electronic device, something that we all have these days. You plug it in, charges the batteries, keeps going. It can drain, it can be half powered, but you can plug it in and you know that it'll keep working. But as a human, what's charging your battery? What's making you want to keep going? What makes you operate at your optimal levels? And sometimes it takes something big, something catastrophic, something bad to realize that you've been thrown off, and whatever it is you do in your day-to-day routine isn't there, and now you got to cope with the loss of the thing that went away. You got to cope with the change in life that's occurred. You got to cope with a heavy situation that maybe you're not completely in control of. So for me, coping looks a lot like figuring out ways to charge your battery, at least to a functional level. And ideally, past just functional, someplace where you're thriving or at optimum levels. For some, it's downtime, it's reading, it's relaxing, it's being one with nature. For me, I have had to figure out my coping mechanisms throughout a lot of trials in life. So in college, I flew abroad. I went to France and I lived there for 6 months. It was a lot of fun, and I'm a pretty social, strong person, and I kind of underestimated what that change would do to me, kind of deep in my soul. It did a lot of great things, but the knee jerk at the beginning shocked me. I wasn't necessarily homesick, but what I found was all of the things that I would have done at home when I was happy, when I was sad, when I wanted to laugh. Like, I had places to go and people to turn to. When you're in a foreign country, they don't even speak your language. All of those comforts, all of your go-tos are gone. So I had to find coping mechanisms to help me handle those thoughts and those emotions. At the time, I didn't have hardly any money, so I had to get creative. I went out and bought some colored pencils, and I bought some sketch pads, and hell, I hadn't drawn for years. But I sat there and I did colored pencil drawings of everything I could get my hands on. I started writing poems. I started listening to music on the radio that wasn't in my language. I started adventuring around and trying to find the cute cafes and the cool little shops, and not that I could spend a bunch of money in them, but just trying to learn, where to get a loaf of bread that tasted the best and what time those came out of the oven. For me, I had to find ways to fill my time so that I wasn't just left there alone in my thoughts. That allowed me to help establish a new routine, new things that were predictable, so when the unpredictable happened, it didn't completely knock me off my rocker. Later in life, I went through a divorce. It was a peaceful dissolution, but at the same time, my whole life changed. Like, I was no longer being invited to cookouts with the families that were couples, and I no longer had someone to sit next to me when my kids weren't there, and my kids were gone half the time. And I very quickly realized that my fuel, my charging source was people, and I was alone. I was alone half the time. I'd never been that way. I'd always had roommates, lived with my parents, lived with my boyfriend or husband. And for me, what I had to do was figure out a way to fill my time and to fill my heart with things that I could look forward to. So I took up remodeling stuff in my house. I learned some new skills there. I focused on me. I figured out how to change my lifestyle little bits at a time, to eat healthier, to even start exercising. I lost like 75 pounds, a really healthy way. It took a long time, but and eventually I got to 100 pounds. I learned how to look forward to things I hadn't, like landscaping and mowing my yard. I spent more time investing in friends. reaching out, checking in, scheduling time to spend time together. I took up some reading. So for me, those started to become coping skills. I also learned that music, while it was kind of always in the background, and I always kind of picked up on lyrics quickly, music is a thing for me. There's so many genres and tempos and beats, and what I found for me was that music could be therapeutic. Playing the right song, where the words came out, expressing just the thoughts that I had, or the vibe or the beat was exactly the feeling that kind of matched me, made me feel less alone. Someone else had already been there. They made the song for it. And when I went in, well, before quarantine, a year before quarantine, and I broke both my legs, gosh, stuck at home for 6 months between 2 surgeries and relearning how to walk and even use my legs or anything. The bad news was another life shifter happened to me that I didn't expect. The good news was I'd been put in enough uncomfortable positions that I had developed coping skills, and I knew that I could reuse some, and that was great. Not a new tool belt completely. But with quarantine, I was isolated from people other than my kids. So the social interaction that I had grown accustomed to that became a coping mechanism, I had to get more creative, figure out ways to deal with that, replace that, or adjust that. So every single time life deals me a card, it's a spend a minute, like, oh, here we go again. And then I kind of reach into my tool belt, like, how can I make the most of this? What kind of coping skills can I refine? What kind of new ones can I develop? So for me, I think coping looks a lot like finding ways to fill your time with things to look forward to. It's not all dread, it's not all bad. It might be different, but there's an opportunity to get creative and to find new things to look forward to help you get through most of the days. There's gonna be moments of fear and sadness and anxiety, but they don't all have to be that way if you build a nice tool belt. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours.